Welcome to the BS Your Way Through Life show where we get real about connection, not just chemistry. Today I'm joined by Todd Sarner. Hopefully I said that right.
Yes.
A psychotherapist and parenting expert who helps high achieving parents turn everyday tension into trust. Through his transformative parenting process, Todd shows families how to shift from control to connection, even when things get messy. If you've ever felt like you know better, but still struggle in the moment, this one's for you. So, Todd, welcome to the show. Did I say your last name right?
You did. It's kind of simple, but people don't see it that much. So, like the closest name to it is like spelled like Warner, right? So
Yeah.
people sometimes see and they go Sorner, but I never say that to people before they introduce me because I don't want to get it in your head. But yeah,
What?
Sarner, that's right.
I slept. Anyway, so okay, tell us your journey. How did you get to where you were? What put you on this path? And yeah, just give us a little like
Oh gosh,
whatever.
like when I was 13 years old, I wanted to either be a concert promoter, and out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, everybody knows Bill Graham, the big famous concert promoter. Like
Mm.
for some reason, I didn't want to be in the band. I wanted to be a concert promoter, or I wanted to be a therapist who worked with kids. It was those two things, and it was
What?
because when my parents split, we all had to go see a therapist, and I'm guessing because the family court judge was like, okay, these people are a mess. Like their kids are probably a mess. Let's make sure they're okay. And I
Wow.
loved it. I just thought it was great. I liked having a place where I could go and talk and be listened to, and so that started competing with the concert promoter thing. Fast forward through years of working before I got my license with kids in group homes and foster and adoptive kids, kind of kids at risk in the community. Um, while I was working on my degree, I became a parent myself right around the time a couple years after I got my degree, and it changed everything for me. I think it's an honorable thing for people to work with kids. I think it's great,
Oh,
especially in a situation like mine where it was like the parents aren't really available right now. But for the most part, becoming a parent and becoming mentored by my mentor, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, wrote a book called "Hold On to Your Kids" that I got when my son was a baby. I went, oh no, that's not me. That's not my job. I don't want to be your kid's answer any more than I want you to try to be my kid's answer. I want you. You're the parent. You
yeah.
and so again, I know there's situations and there's special needs situations, but I just went, no, I want to be the guy behind the scenes and I want to help the parents with their stuff, right?
I like that.
And it's not a blame the parent thing, it's more of like responsibility for the
Yeah,
parent
taking
thing.
responsibility. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So like
I,
if I notice there's something I can't do well as a parent, I like to go, okay, I'm not doing that well. I'm raising my
yeah.
voice. Okay, what's going on? Let me try to figure that out because it's not my kid's problem. It's my problem. So,
Right. I think we have an issue in our society today where people have a hard time taking responsibility. I mean, yes, we do need to look at the background, like, okay, how were you raised? How were you treated? Right. And that all comes into play. But in the end, you need to take responsibility for your own parenting and your own
right.
life. You can't
Right. And that can be a
have
positive
to,
thing, right?
yeah,
It's not, it doesn't need to be a negative thing. Like I could yell at you like, "Will you take responsibility for yourself?" Or I
but
could go,
yeah,
"Hey, you're
it's grace, it's
yeah,
forgiveness. It's like,
totally.
okay, I've just not learned what I need to learn yet. And that's okay. I'm
That's exactly it. That's one of my biggest beliefs in life when I'm working with parents or when I mean, so I went two different paths. One pathway was parent coaching, and I did that before I even got a degree. I'm sorry, before I even got my license as a psychotherapist. And I actually didn't even know if I wanted to get my license. I'm like, I want to be a parent coach. I want to help parents understand child development and behavior and give them a different narrative and a different way of looking at it that'll actually be effective and not all this crazy random whack-a-mole stuff out there where this is the answer today and that's the answer tomorrow. I want to do that. But then I went, oh gosh, helping the parents with their marriage is a very valuable thing too. And I needed a license for that. So I went ahead and I got my license 17, 18 years ago. And so those are the two things I do. I do parent coaching and I do um, marriage counseling for parents only. And they're both with the same lens of like attachment science, that the most important thing in either equation is the relationship between you and your child, you and your spouse.
Yeah.
And if the relationship's not in the right place, nothing else works. If the
Right.
relationship is in the right place, things work, but that's not easy. So,
Yeah.
just to put a button in answering your question or the thing you said before, I find in parenting, most of what a kid is doing is a completely logical outcome of how old they are, how sensitive they are, and what they don't know how to do, and what's going on around them. It's not that they're doing things on purpose necessarily, it's they don't know how. But that's
The
also true
brain
in marriage.
jet.
Yeah, and it's true in marriage too. If you go into it like, my husband's not doing this on purpose because he hates me or he doesn't value me enough, you're going to have a pretty antagonistic attitude with him or
Right.
with your wife. But if you go, oh, maybe my husband doesn't know or my wife doesn't know how to do that, maybe they never got that. Maybe I'm not communicating that I actually need that in the way I think I am. Well, that's a whole nother ball game that you actually have a chance of being productive and doing something differently
Right.
because you're not taking an antagonistic stance with it. You're going, oh, it's they don't know how to do it, right?
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
a really fundamental thing about
It really is. I
what
did
we're.
a little short podcast once, like a couple of years ago, and I talked about how surprise we all have our own language, like
Mhm.
because um, like how I say something and then how he takes it, or how I say something to my child and how they take it. Like I didn't mean it that way, but somehow they took it that way because they misunderstood because they are computing it differently than
That's such a huge thing.
yeah.
In psychology, they talk about the term for that, I think, would be signal and response,
Mhm.
that everybody signals their needs,
Yes.
right? And when they're really young and they're sweet and they haven't learned bad habits yet, sometimes they go, "Mommy, do you love me?" And you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, of course I love you," right? And that's a signal. But as
Yeah.
they get older or they're mad or they're insecure today or they're, you know, worried that your answer won't be great, they go, "You don't love me. You never love me. You only love my five brothers and sisters," right?
Yeah.
And that's still a signal of the same thing, right? And so
It
I
is.
always teach that to couples, like signal and response goes both ways.
Yes.
It's because so often people focus on the response. My husband's not this, my husband's not that, my husband, right? Okay, maybe. But also, how are you signaling? Are you
Yeah.
signaling in a way that he can actually hear you? So yeah,
Oh,
we're totally on the
that
same page with that.
that is so well said. Because yeah, the signals, and it's really hard, it's really hard for the other person to not read into the signals and not suddenly become defensive too, or like
Yeah.
offended in some way. And that's the thing is like it is so crucial to learn the skill of like take a deep breath, wait till the hurt is gone of whatever that first emotion that came. It doesn't whatever emotion came up first, it doesn't mean you need to buy into it. You can
Oh,
feel,
absolutely. Yeah.
acknowledge it, and say, okay, next. We're not gonna buy into the drama here. We're gonna like see what clarify, communicate.
That's hard.
It's
And
so
it
hard.
starts off with most couples, let's just say couples, it starts off with most couples as a relatively simple thing that would be somewhat easy to fix.
Yeah.
What happens though, and one of my greatest mentors also was Sue Johnson, Dr. Sue Johnson, not the sex therapist, the attachment-based couples therapist.
Yeah.
They both have the same name. Sue actually just passed away a couple years ago, but she talked about it as she called it a negative cycle. That because of these things that we're talking about, the last couple things we've talked about, you and I are friends, or you and I are together, and I do something that you didn't like or that wasn't what you needed. You respond to that. I respond to your response. You respond to
Uh-huh.
my response. We have a kid or two or five or six in the meantime. And then, like, next thing you know, we've just got really far from that original kind of easy to fix thing, and we're just layer upon layer of it. So sometimes the journey, whether you do it yourself because you listen to your podcast and you do like a short thing and somebody has an insight and they go, "Oh my God, that's true," or they go to a therapist or they talk to their trusted friends. It's a journey,
Yes.
and everybody talks about, oh, it's hard work, it's hard work. Yeah, kind of, yeah, it is, but it's good work.
It's good
And
work.
it's work that maybe is why we're here in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I think,
Way more simple than people think. Like I think people overcomplicate it,
oh
but
yeah.
like something can be hard to do, but it can also be simplified to where it's doable.
Oh
Where
yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes
It's that's why people say that all the time. It's like it's not hard. It's not complicated. It's simple, but it's still hard
yeah.
because there's still that internal process that we have to go through. Like I talk a lot of my work in my book and stuff. There I am, that guy dropping the book thing. Um,
Yes,
I'm really into the hero's journey.
love it.
I'm really into, like, when I was a teenager, I read Joseph Campbell and like the hero with the thousand faces, and
Yes.
he had like Luke Skywalker from Star Wars on the they had it on the cover because that's the same story people have been telling in every culture like since the beginning of time.
Right.
Person feels like they don't know if they can do it and they have all these challenges, and they have maybe a good guide who's trying to tell them like, hey, you can do this, and maybe they have some good friends they've made along the way, and they go through the swamps of fire and the challenges and they get through it, right? And I talk about this all the time because I think that's what this is. That's the work. Is okay, this is hard. I don't want to do it. I have to get past some stuff, but I'm going to do it because it's worth it. And at the end, I get the golden ring, meaning I'm happy or I have a secure relationship. And it's way more secure, not because we met and everything was perfect and it stayed perfect, but it's way more secure because we went through this, you know? And it got stronger in the broken parts, right? Like that thing. I think that's real. And it's just reframing it in your head sometimes.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Well said. So in uh when in your email I had a question to have a clarity on something, and you talked about high achieving parents. You work with a lot of high achieving parents. What's one so what in your definition, what is a high achieving parent, and what's one common
Yeah, that's
characteristic
a
that
tough
can
thing, and I struggle sometimes with the languaging, and I go and I write things and I change them and I go to ChatGPT and ask, is that the right way to say it? And
yeah, I do that too.
but like a lot of my experience, and I don't want to sound elitist about it or something, like the only people who come to me are running corporations, right? That's not true. I was just My appointment before this was with a single mom in the Midwest who is not that thing, right? Um,
I think high achieving,
but
in my, I'm sorry, I should let you answer your thing.
no, go ahead.
And high achieving is how I see it, is like a parent who actually cares and is trying.
That's a great way to say it, right? It's just like where I started, I didn't have much. I was a new, like, out of grad school with a couple $100,000 of debt person, like starting a family and working an internship and doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, I had 10 years of experience by the time I was here, but by the time became a parent, right? But I was in a community. You're in California. I don't know if you know Marin County.
Not
It's
very.
it's the county right above San Francisco. Like if you
Oh,
cross the Golden Gate Bridge, you're in
okay.
Sausalito, you're in Marin
Yeah.
County.
Yeah. Of course.
And it just so happened that because I had a job in a recording studio in Marin County when I was living in San Francisco and I finished grad school, I had a job as a studio assistant in a rock band's recording studio in Marin County. and we had a kid, and it was like, we don't want to live in San Francisco. San Francisco's awesome. I love San Francisco, but we're like, let's raise our kids somewhere a little quieter. So we went up to Marin State, and it's like one of the most affluent areas in the country. Belvedere, Tiburon, Mill Valley. And it just so happened that I was working in a group home with my dear friend Trevor, and we were going, hey, these kids have obvious problems, and most of these kids come from poverty, background, and but also look around. There's a lot of unhappy kids that have quote unquote everything,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so it was a big contrast, but we just went, okay, let's do good work with people who can't afford it. But like these people over here, these kids aren't lesser because they have money. These kids are having experiences that are not great. And we'd
Yeah.
hear about a suicide of a kid who just walked to the Golden Gate Bridge and jumped off of it. And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? And so that's where I got started. It was parents who like had quote unquote everything. Like they had the nice house and the nice safe area, and their kids went to schools that were public schools sometimes, but were better than a lot of private schools, or they went to a
Right.
private school, and yet they were still dealing with kids who weren't listening to them. And they were dealing with fighting with each other about like, you're too hard on them, you're too soft on them, and having that fight every day. And they were having sibling rivalry, and like, but we're giving you everything. Why? And most of all, I think, was this insecurity and this fear that all parents have, or most parents have. Am I screwing up my kid? Am I
Right.
not preparing them for life? Are they
Oh, yeah.
going to be able to make it in life? And these kids that I was seeing in Marin, the parents were having these same fears, even though on paper, these kids were all going to go to college. These kids all were projected to do well in life, right? But would they have the emotional capacities they needed? Would they be really prepared to have good relationships? Would they grow into their full potential, or because they were spoiled, quote unquote, again, like
Yeah.
for those of you just listening, I'm making quotes, um, and so that's where that comes from. But yeah, I think of it as just parents, no matter what their income bracket or county they live in, they're just trying to do the right
They're
job,
their
but
best.
things aren't working out the way that they want them to.
Right. And I think it's really easy, no matter which side of the coin you're on. It's easy to complicate it in your head and think, well, I've got to do all this stuff for them so that they can succeed. But really, the key factors to raising good kids or good citizens or eventual adults is lots of love, hard work. Give kids hard work as early as possible, and give them the constructive criticism they need. Don't
Sure.
don't shield them from criticism. They need to, like, learn how to emotionally work through things and things like that.
Kids need to know a very important distinction is that who we are doesn't change.
Right.
Meaning, even if I say something to you about, hey, we don't do that, or that's not the behavior, or we need to follow through with this, they need to know, but that doesn't mean we're not okay. And even if we have a hard day, even if I raise my voice to you, even if we had I want to curse sometimes, even if we have everything hits the fan and it's not right, the kid needs to know, but we're going to be okay, and
Yeah.
I love you.
Yes.
But what you're doing right now doesn't work. And
Yeah.
it doesn't work not because you're a bad person. It doesn't work because we are trying to run a family here. We're trying to have a system here. If,
Mhm.
like, the most simple lesson that I taught my 4 year old when he kicked his mom in the shin one day when I was at work because he was just frustrated, I took
Mhm.
him for a walk. I didn't bring it up at first because she was like, "You just deal with this today because I'm frazzled. You talk to him about it." And I said, "Hey, Bubba, I heard you kicked mom in the shin." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean I didn't." I'm like, "Hey, it doesn't matter. I love you, but I would never let anybody kick you, and I'm not going to let anybody kick your mom." That was
Yeah.
all I needed to say, and he
Yeah.
got that. That was simple enough. I'm not going to let anybody walk up and kick you. Why
Yeah.
would I let anybody do that to your mom? Now that's a
Exactly.
4-year-old. That's a
Yeah.
lesser level of responsibility than if I'm talking to my 12-year-old or whatever, right?
Exactly. I remember when I was around 6 years old, my father, I never even hit my mom at this point that I know of anyway, that I remember. But he came up to
Or that you deny in court,
yeah,
yeah.
that exactly. But he talked to my older sister and I, because at the time it was just her and I before the rest of my siblings came along. But he's like, I love you girls so much, but if you ever hurt your mother, that you'll
That'll be the end of you.
and yeah, that'll be the end of it. And we're like, okay. So right then and there, that's all he had to say. Like, my dad was not physical growing up at all. He was the type that, like, his words were very effective. And
Yeah.
it's like, because I knew my dad loved me so, so much. He had the heart of gold, but we knew what lines not to cross. And he
I
let those
can't
lines
tell you how many times, and that doesn't mean your story is not unique and
right.
that I don't love it. And I have heard that same thing from so many adults, like in that same way. So many versions of that in 20 something years of counseling. My dad was tough, but we knew he loved us, right? Now, obviously, some people had a horrible situation or that tough got really abusive, and that happens too. But one of the biggest problems in the parenting landscape is this one side or the other thing and the ability to hold two thoughts in your head at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've heard politicians say strength and empathy are not opposing values. And like when they say that, you're like, well, yeah, duh, but people don't act that way. It's like if
Right.
you watch the parenting socials these days, it's what I've been watching for the last 2 decades. Everybody goes gentle parenting, gentle parenting, gentle parenting. And if your intention is to be kind to your child and loving, good, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. But you have to have boundaries.
Yeah.
It's not loving not to have boundaries. Now, not all gentle parents are lacking in boundaries, but it's been made to be. It means that you're just your kid's best friend and you're really kind and gentle, and that's how we should do it. And then when that doesn't work because kids start running all over you because they don't
Uh-huh.
feel secure when you're that way, they don't
That's
feel
true.
contained,
They
they
don't
don't
feel
feel
like you're an
good.
authority that's going to protect them.
No, it doesn't
They're gonna
feel
protect
safe. And none of us feel safe if there's no boundaries, right? I
right?
joke with people, we're going to go to New York in a couple months for during the holidays, New York City. My dad's from there. I wouldn't want to live there. But man, is it refreshing sometimes just to go there and people are like, it's Todd. We don't like him. Remember this guy? He's a jerk. But at least they're telling you, right? They're not pretending, It's just relieving. But anyway, I'm
Yes.
straying from the point as
No,
we've
that I
talked
was
about
gonna
we
ask,
might do.
yeah, no, I was
But
gonna ask you what your opinion was on gentle parenting.
well, I'll follow up
So
on that and I've
yeah,
given you some of it. But then because kids like if somebody's not in the lead, everything I do is about making parents alpha parents, right? And that doesn't mean a dictator. That means you're a mama bear. You're a
yes,
papa bear. That
right.
you're in the lead. Like a mother goose doesn't smack her kids around. A mother goose doesn't go, "Hey, would you kind of maybe follow me if I go this way?" A mother goose just goes, right?
Yes.
She just goes. And the goslings are like, "Oh, we're going." And they follow. That is the same energy we're supposed to try to embody as parents, not perfectly, right? But when you're not in for those listening, I'm holding one hand above the other. If you're not in that top position, that alpha position, that I'm the papa bear, I'm the mama bear, kids feel really insecure when you're trying to just be
Yeah,
their best friend. They don't like
exactly.
it. And what kids do, especially if they're insecure, is they go to be in charge themselves. And it's not because they want to. It's not because your 5-year-old is just naturally a leader. She's probably not. She just feels insecure because you're not the mama bear right now. So she's going to be the mama bear because
Yes.
no one's being the mama bear, right? So just to finish the original thought, and you and I talked before this about this might be 4 hours because we both can go. I've listened to your show,
All right.
but I'll wrap it together. But then the pendulum swings the other way because kids are being the boss and kids are not listening and things are hectic. So parents go to right now, the big thing I found out was F around and find out parenting or these like crazy strict whatever. And again, if your point is, hey, kids need to learn consequences of their actions, I'm with you. They do.
Yeah.
But they don't need to be scared and frightened and traumatized, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's where it swings. And
Yes.
people call it then consequences. I'm
Mhm.
just letting my kid experience consequences. No, you're not. You're scaring them sometimes,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
Because they don't have food and they're hungry or they whatever. I mean, I had some qualms with the love and logic stuff. There was some good stuff in there, and then
Yes.
there was some frightening stuff in there that if your kid's not listening at the mall, make them feel like they're lost. And and they'll learn that way. I'm like, no, they'll be traumatized that way. But
I
and then they'll
definitely,
come to see me for 3 years about their trauma, right?
I'm the one,
But
I'm the parent in the mall that's like, well, you're not coming. Okay, see you later. Start walking away.
yeah, and a little bit of that is just normal and natural, right? But they literally will tell you in one of these books, like, make them actually think they're lost in the Great Mall of America. And it's
Uh,
like,
yeah,
no,
no.
they're gonna be coming to a therapist for years about that. But to me, we're not supposed to be on that pendulum. We're supposed to be in this middle path. And that is, I call it attachment first parenting. And it's just what you said. On the front end, people say, people don't care what you know until they know you care. It's that same kind of vibe. If I don't take a minute to connect with you, if
Mm,
you don't know that we're okay and we've done like everywhere in the world, you make sure that you connect with people before you do anything else. If our relationship's not in the right place, I'm naturally not going to listen to you. So we need to nurture connection between us and our kids, and that's not as easy as just thinking it. It's a
uh-huh.
practice
Yeah.
that we have to. And if you have 6 kids, you have to have a culture in your home of doing things a certain way. So we
Uh-huh.
all kind of just feel that. But it's attachment first, but it is balanced out by teaching kids cause and effect
Yes.
in a constructive way, the way that we've been talking about. It's
Yeah.
also realizing that kids get full of foul frustration sometimes and their septic tanks get full, and
Yeah.
we have to engage them and we have to help them get it out.
We
And that's
do.
by being firm and setting a limit and saying no, but also having a little compassion so they know we're not just trying to be a jerk. We're just trying to help them get out all the yucky feelings. And we're going to
Exactly.
do that by saying no to that cookie you're insisting upon for dinner, you know?
So something I learned recently as a mom, and it's taken me a while to get here, and I'm glad I finally, am learning. Like for instance, like talking about the feelings, we've got to connect with them first. Like in the past, I used to just be like shut them down, like be like, no, no, you're in the wrong, and you're just in the wrong, and then and I would just like stop whining about it because you're in the wrong, right? But then I learned, oh my goodness, I'm teaching them that they're not allowed to feel or not allowed to have the emotion they have and making them feel bad for it. And I was just like, oh, as soon as I realized that, I was like, apologize to all of my children right there and then.
Right.
If ever I made you feel that way, it's not true. You are allowed to feel that way.
And
Now, and
yeah,
now, like my daughter, she'll have a total meltdown and she's definitely in the wrong. But instead of me like, calling her out, sometimes my natural action is to call her out because I'm not perfect, but I'll be like, wait, hold up, Buffy. And then I'll be like, okay, D and D, I understand why you feel that way. You're feeling that way because of, and I validate it. And then she's like, yes. And then as soon as she feels like I'm validating her or that I feel that I understand her, then she's open to hear what I have to say after that. If I don't do that, she is shut down. We don't get anywhere. It's a big argument. And
and as a therapist, I'll just recognize and acknowledge like you figured out one of the major secrets of life.
yeah,
That I'm kidding a little bit because people get that logically, but it is one of the main things. It's like it unlocks possibility when you do that, right? Empathy is the most important thing to us. And empathy does not mean I agree with you.
exactly.
Empathy does not mean I don't know how that daughter is, but Empathy doesn't mean I see it the same way as you, 4 year old or 7 year, whatever, but I am striving to understand how you feel. I'm striving to understand your experience. And in psychology, they use the term mirroring all the time.
Yeah.
Mirroring does not need to be, I agree with you. Mirroring is like your kid when they're a baby, they look at you when they're one and they're just so excited about something and their face just lights up, and you light up because you're their mom, you're their parent, and you have those mirror neurons in your brain and
Mm.
your heart, and you're like, yes. And the effect it has on your child is that's why they call it mirroring. When I see mama's face looking how I feel, it reaffirms my emotions. It reaffirms me,
Yes.
right? In a
Yeah.
way that just solidifies and feels so awesome. But it's not just that I'm excited and I'm lighting up and I'm happy. It's I'm frustrated,
Uh-huh.
I'm mad. I know you're really mad with me. I'm the worst mom in the whole world right now, aren't I? Yes, you are. I sometimes I really suck. Yes, you do. But you're also the best mom. I do, or whatever. But when you acknowledge it, it like opens up something else,
Yeah, it does. And it almost calms the emotion that they're having because they're like, oh, I'm safe.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
gives them
But yeah.
safe.
And it comes up in couples counseling all the time. I have to do so much work sometimes just get people to understand this, like just acknowledge first.
Yeah.
Don't, when couples are fighting, it's like, you did this. Well, you did that. Well, you did this other thing. Well, you did that thing 5 years ago. Well, you did this thing that was worse. And it was just like, they just go on and on and on,
Yeah.
where it's like, you're like, oh, I that didn't have that conversation last night with my husband. No. But that's not effective communication.
No,
Hey,
it's
you did this thing. Okay. That really hurt your feelings. Yeah, it did. I didn't mean to, but I get that it hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. I'll try to be more aware of it. Okay. Well, the truth is, I guess I'm just a little sensitive to it and it's not all your fault. That's how it unfolds, right?
yeah.
And
Yes.
but people are telling the truth, but
Yeah.
it doesn't unlock until you try to understand what their
Yeah.
experience is.
Excuse me. Yes, exactly. I remember that when my husband and I were first married, and we were like, we've been married a month, and it was our first time that we did not see eye to eye. But him and I, before we even got married, because everybody was like, congratulations for getting married. And then they would say the famous, like, just so you know, the first year or two, it's really hard, and we're like, why does it have to be hard? So we'd already decided it didn't need to be hard, that we were going to use good communication, blah blah blah. But anyway, but then this first time where I'm like, wow, we are really not getting each other, and I'm just like, he keeps going in a circle and saying the same thing. I keep going in a circle and saying the same thing, and it's just like, but we're trying not to argue, and we're trying not to like lash out at each other. We're trying really hard, and for 30 minutes we're going in the circle, and then it hits me. He just wants to make sure I understand what he's saying. Well, that's all I wanted. And so I immediately was like, I get what you're saying. You mean la 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 la, whatever it was. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, I understood that the whole time. I'm sorry. I guess I should
I
acknowledge that.
get You just described my entire day as a couples therapist. And again, I'm not making fun. It's
I know,
like that's what we all do.
right? That is.
Everybody does it. I tell my clients, like, you're not supposed to, like, I can't go, hey, I had this relationship once and this happened, all that, because then it makes it about you,
Uh-huh.
and you can't do that. And there's good reason for that, you know. Um, it's not just therapists like not wanting to be human and hide their whole life or something. It's just
Right.
like the biggest, this is so random, but I've said this on a podcast at least once before, I think one time. Biggest mistake I ever made as a therapist was I was talking to a young man whose father had just died, and I shared a story about somebody close to me who had died. And I thought in the moment I was being empathetic
Yeah.
because I related to something that he was saying, you
Uh,
know? But oh my God, he got so upset with me because it was like, I just lost my dad. I don't need to hear about, right?
yeah.
And so, like, So I don't do that. Like, and again, I'm just giving an inside tip to some people who might think, oh,
Yes.
therapists don't talk about
Yes,
themselves.
lead example, that's
That's the
perfect.
reason why we're not supposed to, is
Yeah,
because I don't want you not sharing your experience because you're afraid of my feelings might be hurt or whatever,
right,
right?
right.
But anyway, I went off on a total tangent there. But it's part of why I wanted to be on your show, and you are figuring this stuff out, and those are the important lessons that people have to figure out. Like it happens for kids, but it happens for marriage. So I'll just say marriage. There's this idea called the orthogenetic principle that comes from biology, that the first level of relationship is merger. Okay. So you and your baby, you
Yeah.
and your love interest, you
Hmm.
kind of merge. That's not really healthy long term because if you were in that place all the time, you're not allowed to be yourself,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right? But at first, it's awesome. At first, it's part of why we bond with our babies, and it's part of why this really deep bond is there. Even adopted parents, when they have that chance to bond with their kids, but then the natural next step is individuation. I have to also be me. I
Hmm.
also have to like figure my stuff out. I need to know that I come to a conclusion because I came to the conclusion, not just because my husband does, right?
Right.
That's super important. And by the way, parents, that's the teenage years. It also happens when they're younger and when they're 9, they usually go through this a little bit. But when they're a teenager, they're like huge and I have to find my own way and I have to think my own way. And that's a natural thing. But if we do that correctly and we figure out what you're talking about, you and your husband figuring out that maybe that 1 or 2 years that your friends were talking about, you can come back together in the healthy third stage. And the healthy third stage is integration. I can be a healthy me, you can be a healthy you, but there's also a healthy us.
Yes.
And a healthy us is not merger. And a healthy us is not, well, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. Maybe we'll cross paths sometimes. That's not healthy either. Well, you can have relationships like that. If you really had a lot of wounding in childhood and you don't want to be around people that much because it's hard, okay, I can see where you're trying to be healthy, but healthy is I can be me with you, you can be you with me, but all growth and all change happens because of the tension between the differences. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all growth and change in me or in you, Buffy, it's like because something's not working for you anymore, or you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. And so
Right.
you need to change. Well, then your husband in your case is going to be on his path.
Mm-hmm.
So how hard is that when we're both doing it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's hard. But the fruits, the reward is
Yeah.
if I can do it for me and you can do it for you, and we can allow it in each other, and we
Yeah.
can have faith that we can go through these phases. And just
Yes.
because we're not merged, it doesn't mean that we're not good. It just means we're trying to find our way to
We're
the
just
healthy.
growing.
Yeah.
And that's so well said because, like, it's, we're supposed to, we are creations of God. We're supposed to evolve. We are supposed to, I know a lot of people maybe don't, believe in God or whatever, but like we are supposed to evolve as human beings. We're supposed to grow. We're not supposed to stay the same, forever and ever. We are supposed to learn and grow precept on,
Right. And I say this all the time. And I said like, what if that's the point?
yeah,
What if that's one of the main points people struggle with? What's the meaning of life? Like maybe part of it is, as parents, let's bring it back to parenting. Maybe part of it is I'm trying as hard as I can to help this being, and you have six, I have one, okay? God bless you. And um, I joked with you before the podcast. Maybe recording the podcast is a way to have a break and have mommy time, but kidding.
yeah,
Um, but um, but maybe part of my job as a parent is to not burden my child with too much of my stuff
yeah,
and help him to reach his potential, even if that potential is different than my potential. My kid, was an outstanding athlete, like a star athlete, like really great at baseball and basketball and stuff. That wasn't me. I was
Right.
decent at rugby in high school, but I was a decent swimmer when I was younger. I was good at a few things. But boy, but the point of that is you have six kids with six completely different potentials. And that maybe my job is to just set you up on the path as best I can in my imperfection, that you can maybe be on the path to your potential. And then maybe as adults, our job is to let go of all the programming and things that we don't
Yes.
need. And
Yes.
maybe it's to figure out the things going back to the beginning that I don't know how to do and figure out how to do them. And maybe you and your husband, or me and my fiance, or anybody, like we bring out of each other those things. And then the danger path is we don't do anything about it, or we
Right.
get mad at each other about it and blame each other about it. But the opportunity path is, oh, you helped me see this, you helped bring it up. Now let's do something about it, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
maybe that's the point. I don't know. It's above
Yeah.
my pay grade a little bit, but I don't know. After a lot of time doing this stuff, I'm like, yeah, maybe that is.
I totally agree with that because like you always have the opportunity because as husband and wives, like if your best friend, you had whatever best friend you had growing up, and they told you something like, "Hey, I got to tell you that what you do here, that's awkward or whatever." If they were your best friend and you love them and you knew them, you would more than likely like, "Oh, correct it or whatever." But if your spouse is telling you that, who also, by the way, should be a best friend, like then all of a sudden we're offended, we're mortally wounded. But
Right.
it's okay to take the path, be like, okay, they love me enough to give me constructive criticism. Now, there's a difference between constructive criticism and then just putting someone down
For
and
sure.
being able to know the difference. How would somebody know like the difference between what's what?
Yeah. I mean, that's a question. Two things came up for me when you're talking, then ask me a question related to it if you want. One, just tying together because as much as we can have a lot of things we want to talk about, I think they are looping together. Um, like, I think part of that disappointment when I hear it from my spouse is because I felt that merger with you. I felt that falling in love with you. And so that became the bar. And so then when you're not making me feel that way, and you're actually kind of bringing up something that makes me not feel like you love me that same way, that everything I did was perfect, not perfect, but
Yeah,
then I feel it more because I felt that with you and because you're my person. And
yeah,
and there's a way that like we up until the time we get married or we get into a long committed relationship with somebody, our kind of main attachment figure in our psyche is our parents usually, right? Whatever your situation was, one parent, two parents, extended family, whatever. They tend to be the attachment figure in your psyche. When you get married and you get in a long-term relationship, they become that person. They take that, does that make sense? They take that place kind of in your inner
uh-huh,
world.
yes,
And so anything that your parent did or didn't do that you didn't like, it's going to come up when your partner does it.
yep.
Or if it just sounds like it or smells like it a little bit, right?
Yes,
But then the second part of that also ties into what we said before, signal and response. How did my partner say it? Because they might have tried to be nice about it and I still didn't like it. Or they might have been so scared of my response, which is usually what I find. I'm so afraid you're going to be mad if I say this that I said it kind of not in a great way,
right.
either out of nerves or that same kind of you don't love me kind of energy, right?
Hmm.
Like I have an issue that's been brought up to me by friends and my partner that I grew up kind of introverted and not that social. And nowadays, if I'm feeling it and I'm feeling social and I'm around good people and people having good conversation and maybe I've had a sip of something, I can talk. I can just go like much like I am now. But but in my head, I'm just excited. I'm like, I'm talking to Buffy and we both care about this stuff and let's talk about it. And people will benefit from this conversation. So in my head, I'm not doing anything wrong, right?
Right.
Or I'm sharing my experience. Oh, you brought up Japan? Did you know I lived in Japan for 7 months? Let's talk about Japan. Yeah, it's totally this way, or whatever. I don't think I'm being egotistical or self-centered or narcissistic, right? But I've had people have to bring it up to me. Hey, can I just say something? You're so fun, and I love that you love talking to people, and they clearly love hearing some of your stories. But I'm afraid some other people didn't feel like they could chime in because you were kind of like talking a lot. If you say that to me, it smarts a little bit,
Hmm.
but it smarts a little bit because you're right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's okay. Because I'm like, oh God, you're right. And I do get a little mopey about it just for a minute. Sometimes I have to admit, I'm like, you're right. I'm
Yeah.
totally a jerk, you know? But if my partner is nervous about it or, annoyed about it because it's happened at 5 parties in a row, or maybe they saw other people going like, well, you shut him up. He's yours.
Sure.
Like
So
if she goes, you know what? You were just talking so much. It was so annoying. Okay, now it's on. Like I'm like, that's mean? And so it's those things, but those are the things we have to kind of figure out. But if we're going to be a fair actor, which is a term I use a lot, like with couples and stuff, a fair actor, I'm going to try as hard as I can, again, looping back to something, to say the truth, but to do it with some empathy.
yes.
And if you're a fair actor and I'm telling you this, your job is to kind of like understand that maybe I'm not saying it perfectly, or maybe it hurts a little, but try to see if there might be some truth in it and at least be
Exactly.
fair about talking it through.
Yes, exactly. I know that it's really hard for people to do that because pride comes in and it's
Oh,
like
yeah. Oh,
but
totally. All sorts of stuff comes up.
stupid a really petty silly example, but like my husband and I would do the dishes together and we'd load the dishwasher, he would rinse and I would load. And when I'd load it, he'd be like, "Oh, you don't know how to load a dishwasher." And
Oh, I might know a little about that dynamic, but from the other point of view.
I'm
Yes.
like, "You are wasting my time by reloading it." And I'm like, "No." And he was just like, "No, look, 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 just watch." And he'd load it, and I'd be so irritated. I'd be like, "Ugh," like, "Don't tell me what to do. I'm an adult, how dare
I
you?"
might be familiar with that dynamic in ways that I won't get into right now.
But
Yes.
then, but then, but because of how I've always believed that it's not things like that aren't worth arguing over, I'd calm myself down. I'm like, okay, let's look at the logic here. Yes, he loads the dishwasher 1,000 times better than I do, and he is right, and he's showing me a better way. I'll tell you what, today I load that dishwasher like a boss. You know why? Because I decided to buy my pride and I decided to fall. And now, instead of having to wash half the dishes, I can load that thing and all the dishes get washed so well. It's so awesome. So
Nice.
it helps.
Again, tension and growth, right? That's a
Yes.
good example of it, right? Because it could have gone the wrong way.
Yes, if I would have chosen to be like, "Don't tell me what to do, and you know what? You're not good at this, so why are you telling me I'm not good at that?" Whatever. It could have, but why? That's a waste of
I,
life.
if I had to invent an 11th commandment, it might be don't take it personally, right? And it's
Oh,
so easy to say, but oh my goodness, would it solve so many problems, right? Is
yes.
because we're attaching a meaning to it that my husband is saying I don't do it right. My
Yeah.
husband says he does it better. My husband says that I'm incompetent somehow or whatever. You know what it usually is? It's usually what we talked about before. Maybe I just never learned to do something. And sometimes, like, again, what I see, and I say this with all the love and empathy in my heart, that a lot of times as human beings, even high achieving people who are doing great things in life and managing a lot in life, we at some point have an inability to manage our nervous systems, an inability to manage our stress, you
Yeah.
know? And when couples are at their worst, it's usually starting with these little things that you and I are talking about, but it gets into threat. It gets
Yeah.
into this feeling of fight or flight because
Yes.
you are my main person. One of my other mentors, Stan Tatkin, the well-known couples therapist, his first book was called Love and War. And it was because he was just making a point that if you do a brain scan of somebody who's like in an actual battle situation or remembering one, it will look the same basically as somebody who's fighting with their partner.
Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
that
Yeah.
your amygdala's fired up in the center of your brain and stuff because the attachment system in people is much bigger than just emotions or feelings or logical arguments. It's a survival system.
Right.
Okay. Like your kids are connected to you and their dad in a survival way. That doesn't even make sense to us because we're like, we're in a safe neighborhood and you're in a safe
Right.
house and you're not. But if they don't know they can be close to you, that doesn't mean just physically, but mentally and
Mm,
emotionally,
yes.
that feels scary, like I'm at risk.
Yes.
And that's true with you and your partner too. And so when I'm watching a couple, like ones that I've talked to today, where she is a total badass partner in a law firm or in a big marketing company, and he's the CEO of something, and they totally go and they dominate during the day, and the stockholders are happy and they're running meetings. And then they come home, and my wife says, "Hey, you didn't load the dishwasher correctly." And I'm like, "What are you even talking about? There's nothing And it's just like I just handled the board of directors and I can't handle my wife saying you didn't load the dishwasher correctly. And just so you know, if you don't know already, Buffy, the dishes come up all the
Oh,
time
I
in
know.
couples therapy, all
All
the
right.
time.
It is probably one of the top 10 that you hear.
I went into the room to put our daughter to sleep and it took 2 hours. And I came out and all the dishes were in the kitchen and you were on your iPad on the couch and I wanted to murder you, right? And that's going on all the time and it gets into the mental load and
How often does the
kind of
toilet seat come up? Okay,
not as much as the dishes, right?
good.
I
I'm
think
glad
the toilet seat is
it's
such
so
a
there.
part. Yeah, the toilet seat thing is so out there in society, and by the
Get
time a
over
man gets married, it's come up a lot. So maybe he knows that one more. But
it.
yeah, the dishes come up all the time, and it's not just the dishes; it's what it symbolizes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. And so in your case with your husband, he has a certain way that like his life just makes more sense if we do this way because the
He's
dishes will get cleaner and I don't have to rewash them. So let's do it this way. It makes more sense. And if we don't do this right, we're also not doing 10 other things right, or whatever. But for the other person, it's what I just said. I come out there, I just want to relax and have a glass of something and chill, and the whole kitchen's a mess. And how could you not know to do that for me, even if it's my job sometimes, right? And it
Oh,
just symbolizes you're
you're
not
lying.
getting that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well said. Yeah. It's it can be hard to not let your, react. It can be hard not to react and to be like, and to be like,
It's it's very hard. And I had a professor in college that said it in a way that stuck with me because sometimes we just need a different story. And he was talking about free will, in a very philosophical way and how it applied to psychology.
right.
And do we feel we're victims of everything, or like we talked earlier, are we taking responsibility for things? Um, am I acting a certain way because my dad did, right? My dad was kind of more of an angry guy. He passed away a couple years ago, and he was just always kind of angry. So, am I angry unconsciously because he is, or am I being a pacifist and not saying what I think because I don't want to be angry, right? And he was just like to him, he said, free will is really important to me. The idea that I'm making my own choices, that
Yes.
I'm doing something in the moment because I want to do that, because
Yes.
that's the best thing in this situation.
Yes.
And so much of psychology can be boiled down to not everything, but one aspect of it is what you just said. Like, in this moment, my kid does this. Does that mean I have to do that? Right? Viktor Frankl had one of the most famous quotes of all time in psychology, and as much as I love it, I misquote it, but he said something like, "Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose." Something like this, right?
Right.
Stimulus in this case, what my husband did, what my wife did, what my kid did. That's a stimulus. They did something. I hate you, you know? Now, do I just automatically pick up a script and start reading from it because that's what my mom did? Or
No.
do I put it down and go, okay, that doesn't work. We don't yell at each other and we don't yell, I hate you at each other. That doesn't work. That's not the family we are.
Right.
But what's going on? You must be really upset for to scream at me like that. What's
Yeah.
happening? What do I
Yeah.
need to know, right? I
Yeah.
am saying no to your behavior. I'm not being a gentle parent who just goes, "Oh, express yourself in the most, you know." And again, I'm not making fun of you, gentle parents. If you're trying to be kind to your children, good. I'm just saying if the brand that you were taught on Instagram was that you don't have boundaries, this is the middle path. What
Yes.
you're doing is not okay. We don't do that. That's not how we talk to. I can't yell "I hate you" to you. That would be awful.
Pretty horrible.
But
Yeah.
you can't say it to me like that either. But I get you must be really frustrated. What's happening? What's going on?
Yes. Yes.
And that's both those are not opposing things.
And I think especially because, like, I keep hearing, I heard forever and ever, teenagers are hard. Teenagers are hard. I have two teenagers in the horse. In the horse. I can talk.
Horse. I have two teenagers and a horse.
I do. Two teenagers and a horse. I have two teenagers in the house and a third one that is about to come about. And they're both boys. And then I have a daughter that's going to be a teenager soon. And I tell you what, I just they're the best teenagers in the world. Like,
I've been telling parents
I'm like, "What?"
forever, and I
I
used to work with kids in group homes that were like dangerous sometimes, and I didn't have any problems with them because
yeah,
I put a lot of time into the relationship with them.
yeah,
And the thing about teenagers, just because you brought it up, and because I'm actually proud of it, we just keep connecting dots, and I love that. Is I talked about the orthogenetic principle earlier, and I talked about the importance of attachment.
yeah,
Understanding the teenage years is about understanding those two things, that they need you more than ever, okay?
yeah.
Like maybe not as much as when they were a baby, but in
Right, in
some
a different
ways,
way.
it is so overwhelming to be a teenager, all the crap going on in your body and things going on around you and peer pressure and AI now and all these things. And it's stressful. So I need to know mom is there. I need to know dad is there. I need to know I can come to you, usually at 10 o'clock at night when you don't want to talk because you're exhausted. I'm going to walk into your room and go, Mom, can I talk? And you got to take that opportunity
Oh,
because they
yes,
need your
yes,
guidance. But there's another thing going on at the exact same time, which is part of why it's so hard for them, is at the exact same time they're going through that individuation
yes,
process
yes,
that they need to figure out who they are.
they
They're
do.
trying to figure out how what they think. And they need to do that because
Yeah,
like I tell people all the time, 100 years ago, how old's your oldest?
16.
100 years ago, he might be married now.
I know, right?
He might be running the family farm now,
Yeah,
right? With the
yes,
horses. Okay.
exactly.
But see, things connecting.
Yes,
And that drive inside of I need to be my own person because if I'm going to survive in life and have kids and have a farm and whatever and be in charge of things, I need to be my own person when I'm 13. So that drive is still in our kids, but our kids don't need it until they're like 22, 25. Okay. And so it's a really tough time. But if you understand those two principles, that you don't give up your job as a parent just because they're talking back a little bit or because they seem to want to be around their friends more and because they want to have their own opinions, you don't give up your job. You stay in the parent position, but you give them opportunities to feel their own feelings, to think their own thoughts, to do their own things, and you're
yeah,
not threatened by it. You endorse it. My kid
yeah,
wanted to learned to take pictures when he was like 13. His
yeah,
grandma bought him a camera kit, but then I paid a friend who was a photographer because I wanted him to learn from somebody good, but I wanted him to not have to get it from me at
right.
that age. And I paid a friend to teach him photography, and he loved it. And it was not my thing because I can take a picture on my iPhone, but I've never been good at taking, right? But
Right.
those are the kind of things that if you encourage their voice and their
Yes.
thought and what is your opinion and tell me, they don't need to push back against you to
Yes.
establish themselves. And
And
that's
I
the push and pull that parents are going
Yes.
through.
And I think it's important too is like, even when your teenager has an idea in their head, like, I want to go and try this, as long as it's not anything illegal or
Yeah,
absolutely, well, danger is part of life. But anyway, but you encourage it, even if they end up failing at it and end up disliking it, that's how they figure out where they want to go and they just learn from it. So you need to, like, yeah, if that's what you want to do, go for it. And it's okay if they change their mind. It's okay if it didn't pan out. You don't have to worry about them. Oh, but what if they fail? I need to protect them from
right.
feeling the feelings of failure. No, they need to feel it and often.
They need to feel that because otherwise they go off in life. And I could cite all sorts of scary examples to make a point about a kid who doesn't get consequences and makes a very bad decision. And we see those on the news and we go, oh no, I'm going to overprotect my kid. But I hear all sorts of things like a kid never was told no,
Yep.
and they go off into college and they fail
Yep.
because they think they can get away with everything with their professor, and their professor's like, no, you can't, right?
Right.
But to have some faith in that orthogenetic principle, whatever you want to call it, it's just in biology, it's about cells dividing and coming back
Yeah.
together and stuff. But I think it's all relationship. But if you have faith in that, if you have a good relationship with your kid and you invest in that, and you have good values and you're trying to teach your kid and trying to do the right thing, even if you're not perfect, they will come back to you and they
Yes.
will come back to that integration where they can know their politics might be different from you, or this way they see this thing might be different from you, or they're really good at this and you're really good at that and it's not the same. But they come back to being able to be with you
Yeah.
because you let them individuate while still holding on. That's the
Exactly.
trick, you know?
Quoting someone, teach them correct principles and then allow them to govern themselves. The like
Yeah.
Once they start becoming a certain age, you've got to start taking away, like, as a child, there's some safety nets I'm sure that parents have, put in place, but like as they get older, those safety nets, they're not going to be as effective. Things need to change. You've got to just do your best to teach them the correct things and then allow them to govern themselves. It's okay if they mess up. It's okay because we all grow up. We all mess up, right?
Yeah. But it's better that they learn that with us
Yes.
than going off into the world and learning it the hard way. Now, that doesn't mean we can protect them from all circumstances. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The
No.
point is that hopefully we can weather those things and those mistakes, and we might say no, or we might have a consequence for something, but I still love you, and I still understand that you were trying to do the right thing, or you were just trying to figure something out, but we can repair it and we can fix it, right? But
Right.
if they go off into, I always talked about that example I was just alluding to, the kind of example. I have a friend who is the youngest of five, and she was always the good kid who did everything right. And so they never really parented her that directly because they had so many other things to deal with, right? And she was always kind of a good student, so she always got A's. And she went off to Stanford, and in the first semester, she turned in her final assignment late, just thinking, well, I can because I'm a TA and I'm going to meet with the professor later anyway. So it doesn't matter that he said, I won't accept anything afternoon. And she did. And she had to take that whole class again. And that was not an inexpensive mistake. But more than that, it was she had to do all the work again and couldn't move on to the other things she wanted to do, right? That's a non-scary, life-threatening example,
Right.
but that was the thing I was seeing in kids in Marin County, and then some of my other clientele in San Francisco and some of the other big cities and in the Midwest, whatever, is that their kids had love, but they didn't necessarily have boundaries or limits, and they didn't have that muscle built of resilience
Right.
that
Yes.
comes from trying and failing, but also from having my feelings and getting them out and then picking myself up and doing it again, you know?
Yes. Oh, well said. I love that. Well, I wish that we had 4 hours to keep going.
Let's do it. I'll cancel my next two appointments. Let no.
Yes,
We
yes,
talked at the beginning how we both were having some throat things a little bit.
yes, yes.
So I've been drinking my tea the whole time.
So let's end on giving us, so for listeners who feel like they're just, let's do this one last question. For listeners who feel like they're just surviving family life right now, what's one small like mindset shift or ritual that can help them feel more grounded and connected?
Um, I don't I can give a short answer that will probably be good, and then I want to give a 2 hour long answer.
Yes, we could do that.
Parenting, I'll say this. Parenting is about building a culture. It's about proactivity. It's about doing things and setting things up for success more on the front end than learning what to do when things go sideways. And
Right,
almost all the advice out there is what do you do when your kid does this to make them stop doing that thing, right? And that's not the way to think about it. It's three phases to think about. The first is attachment and connection. I already made the point about that, and I'll
yes,
loop back to a short answer about that one. But put the relationship first. Don't walk into a room and just assume your kid feels connected. Make sure that we feel this bigger culture of connection around us, that we have a village around us, but also be in that alpha position. Know that your job is to be the big mama bear, be the big papa bear. And if you really strive to embrace that position, all sorts of other things make sense and work out because you're putting relationship first and because you're being the big mama bear. But then build structure and ritual, have predictability. Teach your children this works and this doesn't work, not in a punishing way, but in a natural consequence way. And people use that term for all sorts of different things. But if you're yelling in the car, I'm going to pull over the car. I'm not going to yell that I'm going to pull over the car. I'm not going to scream and give you a lecture. I'm just going to pull over the car. And now we're going to have 20 less minutes in the park because I had to sit on the side of the road for 20 minutes. I don't need to yell at you. I just need you to experience that because you did that thing, right?
right.
That's all. And then have responses to behavior in line with what Buffy and I were talking about that are relationship friendly and that are middle path and learn those things. But the most radical, simple thing you can do to make life better and to hit a reset button is the thing I teach all of my clients in the very first session, as simple as it is. And I've talked about it here today. Don't ever assume connection. Don't walk into a room and think just because you're a good mom, a good dad who's trying their best, and that you're a good parent to them, that they're feeling connected to you right now. That's not how it works. When they're young, their brain can't be connected to two things at once. When they're teenagers, they have all this crap going on and they're striving to survive sometimes. Get in their face in a friendly way. Take a few moments just to get that sense we're connected, just like you would with a friend you haven't seen in a while, right? Everywhere in the world, you don't just dive into it. You take a moment to connect. That simple practice, that simple meditation allows you to get the light on, to get the relationship going, and it also allows you kind of a pause like we've been talking about here to not automatically go into things because people don't like it when you just tell them what to do, right? They want it goes for your spouse as well. They want to feel like, okay, here we are, we're connected, and making that a practice that is the culture of your home and not just a technique you're doing is the most powerful way that you can do all the things that we're talking about today, or at least the way you start is you're making this an intentional practice that I want to put relationship before the next thing. And sometimes the next thing's fun, and sometimes the next thing is do the dishes. But I'm going to take that time first to just get here. In some places in the world, they have 3 cups of tea before they do anything else. In some places, we kiss each other. I was in
Mhm.
Japan. There's like 100,000 ways to bow, different ways to acknowledge before we get into a conversation. But in France, if you don't say bonjour, mademoiselle, comment ça va, and take a minute to, like, they think you're rude and they won't give you your croissant. Take the time to get into relationship it's a powerful practice that then you can build on.
That is beautiful.
Oh,
Todd,
good.
thank you so much for coming onto my show.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me.
Wisdom. Oh my goodness. We need to do this. We need to do a part two. There
We'll
is,
do it sometime. Just give me a call.
I love it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate. I know that people listening to this is going to help. The goal is to like improve family life, improve individual life, improve relationships, and help everybody just like have a better life.
It's the most important thing to us, all of
Yeah.
us. The
Yes,
most
it is.
important thing to your kids, and the most important thing to
Yeah.
your spouse, and the most important thing to you is your relationships.
Yes.
So talking about it on a podcast, doing it for work, I can't imagine anything better.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Todd, for doing what you do and for blessing all of us with all of your knowledge and all of your experiences. Thank you. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a amazing show today. We're so grateful that Todd was on our show, and yeah, we'll catch y'all later. Rock on.